This is an Into the Night with Tony Bruno Show podcast.
Oh, man, I love that thing.
On demand at TonyBrunoShow.com.
Howdy, y'all. You're into the night. Tony Bruno, it's a What Up Wednesday. And the whole gang is here having fun again around the radio, chilling with you. And it's pretty chilly out there. The Groundhog said 6 more weeks of winter yesterday, and people now shoveling out snowstorms, trying to get out of Indy in time to get to Miami and beat the snowstorms there. We're all warm and toasty in here tonight. Tony Bruno, Mr. Tim Cates on a What Up Wednesday.
What up?
Yeah, the Saints are getting a lot of love. I mean, Peyton Manning, without a doubt, one of the greats of all time, and it's hard to it's not that you're rooting against the Colts in this game. I mean, I think a lot of people will be rooting for the Saints on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think a couple of weeks ago you were talking about Kurt Warner, and as he first ballot Hall of Famer. I totally agree with you, man.
There's no doubt.
You got to give it to him, right?
There is no doubt Kurt Warner is a lock. I don't know, first ballot, whatever they do in football, he's a lock Hall of Famer. I just got to appreciate the call because a man who can't be happy hearing all the Saints love. I mean, we had Michelle Stafford on. She said she was rooting for the Saints, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have Matt Kemp of the Dodgers on this hour. We'll see who he's rooting for. A lot of people are pulling for the Saints in this game. But a man who can't pull for the Saints because he works for the Colts, and he's an Indy guy. It's Mike Jansen. He's the PA announcer. In fact, he has a special introduction for tonight's Into the Night show. Let's go to our public address announcer, Mr. Mike Jansen.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mike Jansen, your stadium announcer, welcoming you to Super Bowl 44 between the Indianapolis Colts and the New Orleans Saints. The sidelines of the Tony Bruno Show are for authorized personnel only. Throwing objects on or at the show could result in your ejection and prosecution. Police and security staff are on duty throughout the Tony Bruno Show. If you are in need of assistance, please see the nearest police officer or Tony Bruno staff member. Thank you. Fans,
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
The Tony Bruno Show is a smoke-free environment.
Oh, good.
Smoking on the show is not permitted at any time.
Unless, of course, you have the medicinal marijuana. And many of our listeners do. Except for Mike Jansen, the man you just heard. You hear him at Lucas Oil Field in Indianapolis. He's been there since the beginning, since Peyton Manning started. Mike, how are you tonight, man? What's the weather like in Miami tonight?
12th man, are you ready?
I am ready, man.
Well, Tony, I leave Friday. I'm still in Indy.
You're still in Indy? Now, isn't it cold and snowy there?
Oh, yeah. We're expecting 4 to 8 inches in the next couple of days, so I'm ready to get out of here.
Are you going to be able to get out of there? The Indy airport's pretty good. They know how to get snow out of there.
Yeah. But, see, I'm not full-time with the Colts in that Jim Irsay flew all the employees and a guest and put them up. But I didn't get in on that deal, but I did get tickets to the Colts, so I will be there.
Well, that's good because, people wonder when teams make it how many parts of the organization go, and obviously the front office people, the players, the family, and then there's allotment of tickets. So that you even have Super Bowl tickets, huh?
Yeah, but see, they had to stop at the beer guy, and they had to stop somewhere.
Mike Jansen, of course, Mike is the guy who turned us on to the Blue Sunday song that we played last week, and now we're playing that Saints song a lot. I think more people like the Saints song, because it's more of it's got a good beat. You could dance to it kind of song.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job. I think we have about 4 or 5 Colts songs now floating around Indy. So it's it's a city getting in on the spirit. It's a lot of fun to see folks getting in on it, showing their colors.
Mike Jansen, now tell the story about how you got this job. Because there's a lot of people that listen to radio and I want to do what you do one day, and there are a lot of great PA announcers, and you get the power of the whole stadium. People hear your voice echoing throughout. And so how did you get this gig?
Well, it's kind of interesting because different stories have been done over the years. And I was they did a story on me on the Bill Polian show, and it seems to be the common theme. I think they said his voice is as familiar as the players on the field, but you don't know who he is. So here's a story. But in 1998, the Colts had just come off a 3-13 season, and the Colts had hired Ray Compton, a sports marketing guru, to come in and help fill seats. And Ray had open auditions to be the next stadium announcer. And it was kind of interesting that I saw it in the sports page, and I wasn't really that interested. But I had 5 or 6 people call me at work because I do voiceover work for commercials. And people are like, hey, you going to try out for that? And I'm like, nah, whatever. So I ended up, after all these people were calling me, threw my hat in and went down to the RCA Dome, and it was in July, and it was a sweat box. They didn't have the air conditioning running. And I got there about 5 o'clock, and by 9 o'clock, I still had not gone. And you could see people leaving without even trying to audition. They had a big script, and they had you reading less and less. And I was very close to leaving, and they called my name, so I went up, and they had some calls that you might make, and you just read that. And I left. And about a week later, they called me, and they said, well, you're in the Sweet 16 playoff. And I was like, all right. So they brought us all back down to the RCA Dome, and it was brackets like, the Final Four.
Where were you seated there, Mike?
I was on the left-hand column at the top. But as it went on, they just kept eliminating, and it came down to 2. So what the promotion was, we'd have the 2 finalists, and we'd each do 2 quarters of the preseason game, which was Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning. It was that was the first game that I did. And I called Red Porter over at the Pacers. I go, hey, how do you do this? So
you started the same year Peyton Manning was drafted and became the Colts quarterback, and you've been there ever since, which is a pretty good run because he's going to be there a long time once they get this new deal done.
Yeah, and I think it's real interesting because I've heard it as a topic of conversation. I mean, the Colts fans are just used to winning. I just think this it's just going to be weird whenever Peyton retires. It's just people aren't going to know what to do.
Well, you were there during the, some of the great Colt quarterbacks before Peyton Manning. Do you remember the guys?
Yeah, well, it was Harbaugh.
Yeah, that's right. And then, of course, and then one of our favorite guys, the guy that we had on many times back in the past, a guy who was always seen as a Colt guy who just wasn't very good, but a nice guy. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Art Schleister?
No, not Art Schleister. No, he just didn't know how to bet. Now, who's the guy that I can't think of his name now?
Mark Herman?
No, not Mark Herman.
Paul Justin?
No.
Kelly Holcomb?
No. Not Jeff George.
Jeff George.
Not Jeff George, no. The guy who had the Magic Man, Don Mikowski. Wasn't he there?
Let's see here.
Wasn't Don Mikowski the Colts?
Wasn't he at the Packers?
I think he played for the Colts, too. Anyway, you ran through the guys who weren't very good. That's what I'm saying. Nobody remembers the quarterbacks before Peyton Manning.
Trudeau, Chandler, Pagel.
Jack Trudeau. I mean, there are a whole bunch of guys, and the Colts weren't good. And Peyton Manning is the difference maker. And now he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So don't get me started on all these other Colt guys here. Why did you get me on this thing?
Well, hey, what's kind of interesting, too, is I had seen the movie Invincible with Vince Papale, and it was interesting because the dynamics were very similar. That the Philadelphia had open tryouts, and you could come out. And it was because I saw the movie, and it was very similar, just how the setups were, that people went out, some were totally not qualified, some were qualified to be public address announcer. And, so it was funny because I reached out to Vince by email. He's a motivational speaker.
Well, he's one of my good buddies, as you know.
Yeah. But he sent me an email back. It was kind of neat just to kind of chat with him on email, but he said he wants my movie rights. And I go, I don't think anybody's going to do a movie on a PA announcer.
You're probably right about that, but you never know, Mike. I mean, just keep doing what you're doing. Hey, we got to run, man, but good luck in Miami. I know you're going to root for the Colts. And
appreciate it.
You have to, right? I mean, can you bet on the Saints, by the way?
No.
Okay.
No.
Would you
I'm
ever
going
bet?
for the Colts. Going for the Colts.
All right, man. Hey, Mike.
Looking forward to the Who at halftime, baby.
Exactly right. Hey, Mike, good to talk to you, man. Thanks for checking in.
All right, Tony, great.
There he is, Mike Jansen, the play-by-play PA announcer for your Indianapolis Colts. I think Tim Cates used to do PA, right?
No, I never did PA.
No, that's right. Petros Papadakis does PA at the USC basketball games, right?
That's correct, yes.
Is he any good? I've never been there. I hear him do it.
He's pretty good. He's got lots of energy, very outgoing.
Is he as good as Mike Jansen?
A different style.
Come on, just tell the truth. Is he as good as Mike Jansen?
I think Petros probably does a better job.
I think you're just sucking up to him because you're afraid of him.
I'm not afraid of Petros. You kidding me?
877-996-6369. Miss Robin's going to have that stripper update, too, because people like when Miss Robin does stripper stories.